Alright, so we have the year 8 roadmap. Now, one thing I do want to say is I did make a video on most of the stuff coming in year 8 season 1, so I'm just going to go over that briefly, but I'm not going to talk about it too much. First of all, we have the mousetrap anti-cheat for keyboard and mouse. Now, I don't know why they didn't just ban all the people they were collecting info on. This is kind of a good change, right? Pretty cool. They're actually cracking down on some stuff that's been complained about for a while, so at least they're listening and they're trying to do something. And then the immersive reload essentially just makes it to where you can't reload cancel. I think it's very healthy for the game, and it punishes people for being in bad positions whenever they try to reload, right? So it's pretty good. And then beginner challenges are also very good for new players. I will say though, there are not a lot of new players coming to this game because it's not new player friendly, right? This does help out with that, but still, it's like the amount of people playing the game that are new are heavily outweighed by the people who are playing the game that have been here for years, right? So it doesn't matter that much. But let's get into what I really wanted to talk about today, which is the year 8 season 2 changes. Obviously, we have a new operator, a new battle pass, a new event coming to the arcade. But they're reworking console, which is super cool. I'll put on screen right now what that rework looks like. But essentially, they're closing a bunch of windows, which was, the main map's problem, is that there were too many windows, and they're completely reworking how some of the rooms work, which is awesome. This is what has needed to happen for a while. It's what they did with Chalet, and it's hopefully what they're going to make work with Consulate, so I'm super excited about that. And then we also have the permanent arcade playlist. If you don't want to take the game too seriously, then you can play the arcade playlist or the new reworked quick match, which we'll talk about later. But essentially, they're adding more fun to the game. I will say, based off of how the game is played, that's not going to work out as well as you might think it is. The reason for this being is because the whole fun of Rainbow Six Siege is that it's very serious, it's very strategy heavy, you have to coordinate, and you have to constantly be tryharding, right? It's kind of a strategy game. That's why I like it, that's why I took it up, and I'm sure that's why many of you have played the game and loved it so much for so long. I don't know how cool it's going to be, we'll see. I'm kind of just a hater, we'll find out next season. But also, one thing I really want to talk about is the operator rework for Frost. I'll put what that looks like on screen as I'm talking about it, but essentially you can self-revive out of Frost mats, which a lot of people inherently hate. They hate this change. It's, like a pretty hated change until you hear everything else that comes with it, right? So obviously they can self-revive, which kind of sucks, right? But you're no longer able to sprint once you self-revive, and you leave a trail of blood that is so obvious, like compared to like a normal downed body with blood. This blood trail is super red, super big, super long, so this is honestly awesome. And like they said, they were trying to make it feel like she was more of the huntress that was like described in her character bio, which, this is kind of cool. But the fact that they can't sprint and they leave trails of blood is absolutely insane. If you can't sprint, especially as an attacker, taking gunfights is near impossible. You can't wide swing anything, you can't sprint around the map, you have to walk everywhere, which is kind of crazy, right? So it almost gives you an incentive to have a teammate pick you up rather than just self-reviving. So I love the change, honestly. I really do like it. It still punishes people because frost mats aren't really getting changed themselves. It still punishes people for not looking for a frost mat, but it gives them more of an incentive for like soloistic plays to take a risk to get themselves out of that frost mat rather than having a teammate come pick them up. So I think it's pretty cool. And then we have a new target mode in the shooting range. So essentially, again, I'll put an example on screen. They're adding aim labs to Siege because Aim Labs has tried so hard to duplicate the mechanics in Siege, and they've been so unsuccessful. Siege decided to make its own version of its Aim Labs in its game, which is very helpful because you can try to warm up in Aim Labs, you can try to warm up in Valorant, but the movement is never going to be the same. You can't practice with the recoil, you can't practice with certain guns, so just having the aim trainer inside the game is outstanding. I love this change so much, and I honestly cannot wait. Alright, let's talk about Year 8 Season 3. We have an operator coming from Korea, a new battle pass, and a new event just like all the last seasons, but we have Quick Match 2.0. Now, there hasn't been a lot said about this, and for good reason. It's kind of a huge event that they're making it out to be. A lot of the times with what happens with quick match or casual modes in this game specifically is no one's taking it seriously. They're just running around. People are leaving, rejoining because it's honestly just not fun, right? I don't play the game. I probably have like 5 hours on quick match max because it's just not fun to me. And if you wanted to warm up, you have so many different options. If you want to have fun, I honestly just have fun playing ranked, playing comp, playing unranked, whatever. So they want to add a way to just have fun and shoot around, That's what deathmatch was, but they want to make quick match a thing too for more casual players who are still wanting to learn the game, kind of like newcomer was supposed to be. So I don't know how they're going to do this. If they made it, you know, less time, you didn't have to use all the gadgets, or you had to use specific gadgets, or maybe you didn't have to set up site, whatever it may be, they're going to completely rework the base core mechanics of the game for quick match, which could be cool, could be not. It adds a newer player friendly aspect to the game, which is something that is always needed, especially for this game. So we'll see how it works out. Let me know down in the comments what you think it's going to look like. If they have actually talked about it and I don't know, please let me know, because I do kind of want to know what they're talking about here. And then we have the new secondary gadget, the observation blocker. So it essentially puts up like a huge glass opaque wall that only drones can't see through. So the idea here is you can roam and see through this wall like the wall is invisible to you, but for drones and cameras, it is an observation blocker. So that's pretty cool. It's a counter to Twitch, a counter to the Clutch drone, it's a counter to normal drones, pretty much any sort of drones it's a counter to. It's great as well because you get not one, not two, you get 3 of them per operator. So it could be very powerful for roams. And I think another idea here is you put utility behind it so that drones can't destroy that utility that's behind the observation blocker without actually going through it. You know what I mean? So if you have a Maestro camera behind the observation blocker, they can't see the Maestro camera until their camera's gone, right? So other aspects like that. It is kind of a pretty cool gadget. I want to see how it works out. But with that out of the way, let's go into the next thing I want to talk about, which is playable tutorials. So kind of like beginner challenges, it's a more newer player friendly focused thing. They're adding tutorials to every single operator in Siege, and they're adding tutorials to every single type of operator in Siege. So if you play a lot of hard breach, they have tutorials on how to play a hard breacher specifically, and the more hard breacher you play and the more tutorials you play with that hard breacher, the more hard breachers you'll be able to obtain. So it's also a new way to gain operators, but it's a good way to learn what type of operator you want to play or that you like to play in ranked. So that's pretty cool. It's just getting newer players to kind of find that niche that they like to play faster, which is, again, newer player friendly, right? It's something that we need, so I welcome it with open arms. And then season 4, which is arguably the coolest season coming from year 8, is going to be a Portugal operator and a new battle pass and a new event like the last seasons. And there's going to be a new map, which is really cool, something they haven't really talked about at all. We don't know what it looks like, we don't know what it's going to be, we have absolutely zero information, so pretty much everything is just kind of open. And then we also have the revamped shield mechanism. This essentially is just reworking how shield mechanics work, obviously if you couldn't tell by the title. So the way this works is your gun is behind your shield at all times, right? So you can reload your gun while your shield's in front of your face instead of you as your shield operator having to find cover, then reload, and then going back into the fight. You can just reload behind your shield, which is very cool. They're also making it to where you can look left and right while your shield is still in front of your face. If you've ever played Rust, if you've ever played Tarkov, you know about this. You just hold a key down and you're able to look to your left and right while you're sprinting forward, which is pretty cool. It also makes it to where you can throw smoke grenades, specifically like, you know, on Blitz or on Monty, while your shield is in front of your face. So that's awesome too, right? Because a lot of the times as a shield player, when you throw your smoke grenades or EMP grenades, you have to move your shield and you're vulnerable to headshots, right? So don't really like that. And then also they're making it to where instead of knifing people with your shield, you just push them back like an Oryx or like an air jab, which I think is cool because if a Blitz is running at you and you're blind, you're kind of fucked. Like you're just done. Same thing with Monty, right? So like at a certain point, there needs to come a change with shield operators and how the mechanics work, and that's what they're aiming to do here. Again, this is 4 seasons away, so everything's subject to change, and I guarantee you they're going to add and remove some stuff that they've been announcing for the shield operator rework, but that's all we know for now. And then the last thing, and arguably the most exciting thing that I want to talk about, is the Defender AI playlist. So one thing that kind of sucks about trying to warm up in Siege is that you can't warm up your game sense, and you can't warm up against players who are playing on normal maps. Now what I mean by this is, if you want to warm up your aim, deathmatch and T-Hunt are good because you can warm up your raw mechanics, but you can't warm up the fact that you're in a 1v1 situation behind a barricade, there's utility here, there's reinforcements here, you have to get the bomb down. Like, you can't warm up your game sense, and you can't warm up your mechanics on how to navigate certain maps whenever you're trying to play. So the Defender AI playlist aims to reduce this trouble. You essentially play against an AI that knows how to set up sight, they know how to peek angles, they know how to wide swing, they know what operators to play, they know where to put their utility, so that you can have sort of like this pseudo defender that you can go against on attack to be able to warm up against an actual player-like entity, which is super cool. And the best thing about it is it learns from every single player that it plays against, meaning it's going to get smarter and smarter and smarter until it's a really, really good defender. Now, I think you'll be able to scale how hard you want the defender to actually be, whether you want them to set up sight really well or you want them to set up sight not as well, whether you want them to have bolo aim or you want them to have copper aim. I think you can kind of scale the difficulty, which is, you know, really cool. But it's overall, like, I've never seen any other game do this, right? The AI industry is pretty new, but that being said, having Rainbow Six Siege do something that's new to a very groundbreaking industry is like kind of a first. I think it's awesome. And then they also said for year 9 they're going to implement an attacker version, which again is much harder to do because they have so many options compared to defense, and they, you know, on defense they just have to sit in corners and hold angles, right? On attack they can do so much more, so it's harder to program an AI like that. With that out of the way, that is it for the year 8 roadmap. With that being said, sub to the channel down below, like the video if you liked it. My name's Alka. I will see you all in the next Siege educational tutorial. Later.